Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Now, today we're diving into one of those questions that's like as old as time, but also like super relevant to like your daily life.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, like, do we actually have free will,
Right.
or are we all just kind of running on autopilot?
Yeah.
Um, you guys have sent in some really interesting stuff on like psychological determinism.
hmm
And I am so excited to dig into all of it with our expert.
Yeah, it's a question that really gets at like the core of who we think we are. Like if our minds are kind of like machines just following a program,
Right.
what does that mean for like how we see ourselves, our
Yeah.
sense of responsibility for things?
Exactly. It's like if my brain is already making the choices
Yeah.
before I'm even aware of them, is
Yeah.
it really me making them?
Yeah.
So I guess to get us all on the same page, like, what exactly is determinism?
Okay.
And like, why should we even care about it?
So determinism, like in the simplest terms, is the idea that like every single event, including all of our choices, is caused by something that happened before it. So it's kind of like a chain reaction,
Okay.
only instead of like billiard balls, we're
Yeah.
talking about like thoughts and feelings and all of our experiences.
Gotcha.
So it's all connected.
Okay, so no like random decisions, no like bursts of inspiration. It can all be like traced back
Right. Yep.
to something else.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it challenges like that really deep-seated belief that most of us have that like
Yeah.
we're the ones in control, you
Right.
know? So if everything's already like predetermined,
Yeah.
what does that mean for our responsibility, for our actions,
Right.
the meaning of like all of our struggles,
Mhm.
all of our triumphs? It really kind of like shakes up the foundation of how we see like ourselves in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a big one.
Okay, so how does this psychological determinism fit into all of that?
Okay, so psychological determinism kind of takes that chain reaction idea that we were just talking about and it brings it inside to like the inner workings of our own minds.
Gotcha.
So it suggests that our thoughts and our behaviors are mostly shaped by like forces that we're not even aware of.
Okay, so are you saying there's like a whole other me running around in my head making decisions that I don't even know about?
Not exactly like a separate you.
Okay.
It's more like, this like hidden operating system
Oh, okay.
that's like influencing all your choices.
Okay.
So think about like behaviorism, for example.
Uh-huh.
B.F. Skinner was a big proponent of this and argued that we're all essentially shaped by
Gotcha.
rewards and punishments, kind of like training a pet.
Okay, so like if I give a good presentation at work and everybody's like, yes, great job,
Yes.
then I'm more likely to like try to kill it on the next one.
Exactly. Like operant conditioning is like all around us, you know?
Yeah.
Think about how you've like trained your dog or even like how social media uses like likes and notifications and stuff to keep us like hooked.
Yeah,
Our brains are like wired
Yeah.
to seek pleasure and avoid pain.
of course.
So we respond to all those rewards and punishments often without even realizing it.
Okay, so even when I think I'm making a choice,
Yeah.
like a free one, it's actually like my past experiences that are kind of like pulling the strings.
Yeah.
That's a little creepy, but I get it.
Yeah.
But isn't there more to it than just like rewards and punishments?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot more to it.
Okay.
This is where like Freud's ideas get really interesting, right?
Yeah.
He argued that like our unconscious mind
Okay.
is this like powerful force
Yeah.
shaping our actions even though we're not aware of it.
Okay, yeah. I've heard of like the id and the ego and the superego, but to be honest,
Right.
it's always sounded a little confusing to me.
Yeah.
So can you like break it down a bit?
Yeah. So Freud basically believed that we have these like three parts of our psyche
Okay.
that are constantly like interacting. So the id is all about like our primal urges.
Okay.
The superego is kind of like our internalized like moral compass.
Right.
And then the ego is stuck in the middle,
Okay.
trying to balance those two competing forces.
So it's like this constant tug of war
Exactly.
going on in my head.
Yeah.
No wonder I feel conflicted sometimes.
Exactly. And Freud believed that a lot of like our desires and our fears
Yeah.
get kind of pushed down into this unconscious realm,
Okay.
especially from childhood, you
All right.
know? So they might not be on our radar consciously,
Mhm.
but they still influence our choices.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Like if I had like a really scary experience with a dog as a kid,
Yeah.
then I might just be like afraid of dogs as an adult
Mm-hmm.
and not even know why.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not always like super dramatic like that.
Right.
But the point is, these unconscious influences, they can be pretty powerful.
Okay.
And there's even some, like, evidence from neuroscience that kind of backs all this up.
Whoa, really? Like actual science experiments?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So, like, one of the most famous ones is Libet's experiment.
Okay.
They found that brain activity seemed to, like, predict a simple action,
Okay.
like moving your finger,
Right.
before the person was even aware of making that decision.
Whoa. So my brain is like deciding things before I even know about it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really trippy.
Yeah, it's definitely a thought-provoking experiment.
Yeah.
Raises the question of whether, like, our feeling of making that conscious choice
Yeah.
might actually come after the brain's already kind of set things in motion.
So we've got behaviorism over here saying that we're shaped by rewards and punishments.
Mm-hmm.
We got Freud adding this whole like other layer
Yeah.
of unconscious drives and stuff.
Right.
It's starting to feel like free will doesn't stand a chance.
You know, it's interesting because there are, like, really compelling arguments for free will as well
Oh, okay.
that we're going to get into in
I
this
haven't
part,
been ready for it.
where we'll dive into, like, existentialism.
Ooh, existentialism.
And the philosophies that, like, really champion
Okay.
our ability to actually choose.
I like it. I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Hey, listeners, don't go anywhere because this is getting good. Okay, so in the first part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
we were looking at how, like, all of our past experiences
Mhm.
and, like, those unconscious desires we were talking about
Right.
might be, like, pulling way more strings than we even realize.
Right.
But now I'm ready for the other side.
Okay, yeah.
What about free will?
Yeah.
Like, do we actually have any say
Yeah.
in who we are, what we do?
It's a good question.
You know, like,
Yeah.
how much control do we really have?
So the case for free will is definitely strong.
Okay.
And it draws on, like, some really big
Yeah.
philosophical ideas.
Okay.
One of the most, like, powerful ones
Okay.
comes from existentialism.
Existentialism, isn't that, like, all about, like, angst and, like, the meaninglessness of life?
Yeah. Yeah, it can be a little bit.
How does that help with free will?
It does get into those, like, big questions for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
But, like, at its core, existentialism, especially the way Jean-Paul Sartre
Yeah.
talked about it, is all about, like, this radical freedom.
Okay.
You know, he said existence precedes essence.
Okay.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
It means that, like, we're not born with
Yeah.
this predetermined, like, blueprint, you know?
Gotcha.
We create ourselves through our choices.
So it's not like we're, like, robots or something
Right.
pre-programmed with a specific purpose.
Exactly.
We get to, like, decide
We get to decide.
who we are.
Okay, I like that.
That's a pretty empowering thought.
Yeah, it is.
Sartre believed we are condemned to be free.
Condemned to be free. That sounds a little intense.
know, right?
But I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Like, no more blaming our parents. No more blaming our genes.
Yeah.
No more blaming, like, our hidden desires. Even
Like it's on us.
It's all on us.
Okay.
It definitely puts the responsibility
Yeah.
squarely on our shoulders.
Yeah.
No excuses. But
Right.
that's, like, what makes it so liberating.
Okay.
Like, we have the power to choose,
Yeah.
even if it's scary.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how that, like, connects to this idea of free will.
Right.
But what about, like, morality?
Yeah.
If we don't have free will, like, how can we hold people accountable for the things they do?
That's where Immanuel Kant comes in.
Okay.
He was, like, a huge believer in moral responsibility.
Okay.
And for him, free will was, like, absolutely essential to that.
Gotcha.
So he argued that, like, humans are these, like, rational beings
Okay.
capable of making choices based on, like, moral principles,
Right.
not just, like, instincts or conditioning.
Right. So it's not just what we do,
Exactly.
but, like, why we do it.
It's the why.
That matters.
Yeah.
If we're just, like, reacting to stuff, or
Mhm.
just following our unconscious, like, can we really be held responsible?
Exactly. If everything is, like, predetermined, then praise and blame become, like,
Yeah.
meaningless.
Right.
It would be like praising a computer
Right.
for, like, running a program correctly,
Yeah.
or blaming it for, like, crashing.
Right. It's just doing what it's programmed to do.
It's just doing its thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So we got existentialism over here
Yeah.
saying that we're free to, like, create ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We got Kant saying that morality, like, hinges on free will.
Right.
But how do we, like, square all of that
Yeah.
with everything we were talking about before, with like the unconscious and how much our experiences actually affect us. Like, isn't that kind of a contradiction?
It's a tricky puzzle for sure.
Yeah.
That's where this idea of compatibilism comes in.
Compatibilism.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're trying to get like two rival gangs to work together.
Kind of, yeah.
How does that even work?
Well, in a way, it is kind of like a compromise.
Okay.
So compatibilists would say that we can still be considered free
Okay.
as long as our actions are like aligning with our desires, even if those desires were shaped by like things outside of our control.
Okay, could you give me like a real world example
Yeah.
of what that looks like?
So imagine like you're offered a piece of cake.
Ooh, cake.
Right. You might have a really strong desire for that cake.
Yes, I would.
Maybe because you have like good memories associated with cake, or maybe because your body's just like craving sugar.
Yeah.
Right. But even though that desire might come from things that you didn't like consciously choose, you still get to decide whether or not you're going to eat that cake.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not like denying that maybe my past experiences or whatever are like influencing my cravings, but I still have the power to decide what I do about it.
Exactly. You're acknowledging the hand you were dealt.
Yeah.
But you still get to play the game.
I like it.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what allows us to maintain that sense of like moral responsibility.
Okay.
Even if our desires are influenced by things we can't control, we still choose how to act on them.
Yeah.
And those choices have like real world consequences, both for ourselves and other people.
This is making me like totally rethink
Yeah.
how I view my own choices.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's not even about do I have free will,
Right.
but more like how can I understand these influences and like work with them
Yeah.
so I can make better choices.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
Yeah. It's about like recognizing the complexity of the whole human experience. Right. And not trying to like oversimplify things. Like we're not just puppets,
Right.
but we're not totally free agents either.
Right. We're somewhere in between.
We're somewhere in between.
Okay. So we've explored like both sides now of this whole free will versus determinism debate.
Yeah.
We went from like the unconscious depths to like the heights of existentialism and even found like a middle ground with compatibilism.
Yeah, we did good.
I'm feeling very philosophical right now.
Yeah.
But the question is, how do we actually like apply this stuff in our daily lives?
That's the big question.
That is the big question.
That's what we're going to get into in the last part.
All right.
Where we talk about how like understanding these ideas can help us make better choices, understand ourselves better, and maybe even like live more fulfilling lives.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, stick around for part 3 where we're going to like bring this whole philosophical journey down to earth and figure out what it all means for you. So we've been kind of wrestling with this big question of free will versus determinism, right? We've explored how our past experiences and like unconscious desires and all that stuff might like really be influencing us. But then we also talked about how like existentialism champions our freedom to choose.
Yeah.
And Kant was all about like moral responsibility.
Right.
But now I want to get practical.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
How can we actually like use this stuff in our daily lives?
Yeah, that's the key, right? Like, what's the point of all this? Like, deep thinking.
Right.
If it doesn't change how we actually live.
Exactly.
I think, like, one of the most valuable things to take away from all of this is the importance of self-awareness.
Okay, self-awareness,
Yeah.
That's always a good thing, but how does that tie back to
Yeah.
this whole free will and determinism thing?
So if we think about how a lot of our actions are driven by like unconscious forces, like Freud was talking about, and the behaviorists, wouldn't it be helpful to like shine a light on those influences?
Okay.
You know, like imagine you're driving a car at night. It's a lot safer if you have your headlights on so you can actually see the road.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
So self-awareness is kind of like turning on the headlights in our minds.
So instead of just like reacting
Right.
to our impulses.
Yeah.
Or just repeating the same patterns over and over.
Yeah, totally.
We can actually like start to understand why we're doing the things we do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The more aware we are of our patterns, our
Yeah.
triggers, our motivations, the more we might discover
Okay.
that we actually have a lot more choice
Okay.
than we think we do.
Okay.
We might actually be able to like make different decisions, break free from those like unhealthy habits,
Yeah.
or at least like understand ourselves a little better.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about those times when you like really feel trapped? Like,
Yeah.
you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Like, what if someone's like forcing you to do something
Right.
that you don't want to do?
Yeah.
Like, where's the free will in that?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And even like Sartre acknowledged that there are like limitations to our freedom, right?
Right.
We don't always get to choose our circumstances,
Yeah.
but we can choose how we respond to them.
Okay. So even when we feel like we're backed into a corner or whatever,
Yeah.
there's still a choice in how we like react to it
Exactly.
mentally and emotionally.
Okay.
Even if we end up like making what we consider like a wrong choice,
Yeah.
just recognizing that we had a choice in the first place
Yeah.
can help us like learn from those mistakes and choose differently next time.
Okay, so it's not about pretending that like we're totally free
Right.
from outside influence. It's more about
Yeah.
recognizing those influences, working with them,
Working with it.
and realizing we still have the power to like shape who we want to be within those boundaries.
It's kind of like realizing that like you've inherited a garden, right?
Oh, I like that. But you still get to decide what to plant,
Yeah.
how to tend to it,
Yeah.
and ultimately what kind of like landscape you want to create.
Oh, I love it. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so even if like complete free will is kind of an illusion, we can still like strive to be
Yeah.
the best gardeners of our own lives.
Totally.
Right.
And remember, even if our choices are like influenced by all this stuff,
Yeah.
those choices still have like real world consequences.
You do.
Let's make them count.
Yes. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive
Awesome.
into free will versus determinism.
It was a good one.
It was a good one. It was a deep one.
That's deep.
It's definitely a complex topic, and there are like no easy answers.
Right.
But hopefully this has like given you some stuff to think about,
Yeah.
and maybe even some new tools
Yeah.
to navigate your own life. You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
Remember, even if we don't have like complete control over everything, we still have the power to choose, to learn, to grow.
Love it.
So keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep choosing to make your own unique mark on the world.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. We'll see you next time.